A World for Only the Brave. Written by Concordia G. The left, which was made up of communists from the East and communists from the West, transhumanists, globalists, Satanists, Luciferians, environmentalists, eugenicists, Nazis, technocrats, and occultists wanted to plan for a future where they controlled the world 100%. Since America controls the world's resources, media, political systems, economic systems, and world thought, they knew that America had to be destroyed and rebuilt. In order to rebuild America, the left, aka TPP, started America's voluntary enslavement by engaging in behaviors that derailed the foundations of America. Then, a globalist, pro-freedom leader from the right, possibly a pro-freedom person, was easily manipulated like a child, started a war on the left. However, his actions, unfortunately, put America on a path to its own destruction. Most importantly, their plans were furthered by the removal of America from the world at large. As a result, the world lost a leader, and the light and fire of justice America once had was now cast upon itself. Finally, the hidden ones found a way to retake control, and they were able to blame the good guys for America's economic and political woes. Once in power, the real enemies of America had the legal means, the political means, the economic means, the will of the people, and the military means to bring in a new world order on a national scale. Once America had been reshaped into a new utopia, America, with its new ally of China, brought a new/old way of thinking to the rest of the world, which had no choice but to fall in line. It had been preordained long ago by the ones who live in the shadows that America must burn and that it must be burned from the inside. Most importantly, the ones who created America and those who support that way of thinking must be blamed for America's destruction. It took many decades to put the plan in motion by gaining control of America's education systems, its government, its armed forces, its media, and gaining control of the minds of Generation Z, who became America's new light bearers when America fell. The aftermath. America has finally been taken over 100% by the left, which is made up of communists from the East and communists from the West, transhumanists, globalists, Satanists, Luciferians, environmentalists, eugenicists, Nazis, technocrats, and occultists. The future is uncertain as a civil war has taken place. Will China and other countries step in to steal America's resources or to take America for themselves? Will the new leaders of America keep America isolated so it can fine-tune their dystopian plans? Will the fall of America be a domino effect that will lead to the implosion of the rest of the world? Was the fall of America planned in a way that the left and the right worked together, or were they unknowingly working together to change America into what it has become? Chapter 1. The Shattered Flag. Chapter 2. A Forgotten History. Chapter 3. Whispers in the Dark. Chapter 4. The Brave Few. Chapter 5. The Forbidden Map. Chapter 6. Code Name. Liberty. Chapter 7. The Necklace. Chapter 8. The Message. Chapter 10. The Tunnel Gate. Chapter 11. The Escape. Chapter 12. The Red Zone. Chapter 13. The Hidden Library. Chapter 14. The Real Story. Chapter 15. The Generation Betrayed. Chapter 16. Footsteps in the Dark. Chapter 18. Inside the System. Chapter 19. The Signal. Chapter 20. The Breakout. Chapter 21. Reunion. Chapter 22. The Broadcast. Chapter 23. The Spark. Chapter 24. The Revolt Begins. Chapter 26. The Choice. Chapter 27. The Refusal. Chapter 28, The Fall of the Wall. Chapter 29, A New Dawn. Chapter 30, The Brave Are Many. The shattered flag. In the middle of a once great city, a tattered flag swayed gently in the wind. Its stars were faded, its stripes torn. America, as it once was, had vanished. In its place stood a cold, controlled land known only as the Republic. The new America, 20 years after 2025, the country had changed beyond recognition. Tall walls surrounded every city. Drones flew through the sky, watching everything. Screens told people what to think. Most believed the world had always been this way. Obey, submit, conform, consume, stay asleep. Whispers in the dark, but not everyone believed. In quiet corners of the Republic, old men and women told stories of liberty, courage, and truth. They whispered of a time when people were free to speak, think, and dream. The brave few, in Sector 12, for kids had started to wonder. Milo, a tinkerer. Zara, a runner. Jean, a codebreaker. And Luna, a dreamer. They had questions no one dared to ask and a fire in their hearts they couldn't explain. The forbidden map. One rainy afternoon, Jean discovered a map inside a broken patrol bot. It showed a place labeled the Forgotten Lands. It was outside the walls, beyond the Republic's reach. Code name, Liberty. That night, Zara intercepted a signal on her old receiver. It was a man's voice, full of passion. Do not forget who you are. America must rise again. You are not alone. The necklace, Luna's grandmother, before she vanished, had given her a necklace. This belonged to someone brave, she had said. Now, the necklace began to glow faintly when near the map. The message. Milo discovered a hidden message inside a book of old poems. It spoke of a group called the Lightkeepers, those who remembered the truth and waited for the right moment. The pact. In the tunnels beneath their sector, the four friends met. They agreed to find the Forgotten Lands, discover the truth, and bring light back to their world. The tunnel gate, deep underground, past rusted pipes and collapsed walls, they found an old escape route. It was marked with the symbol from Luna's necklace. The escape, as drones hovered above, the kids slipped into the dark tunnel. It smelled of dust and time. Behind them, their old world faded. Ahead, danger and hope. The red zone. They emerged in the red zone, a city burned in the last war. Skyscrapers lay broken. Nature had crept back. But in the shadows, cameras still watched. The hidden library, behind a false wall in a ruined bookstore, they found it, a hidden room filled with books, films, and relics of the old America. A secret place of learning. The real story. Here, they learned the truth. The fall of America had been planned. The left and the right had both played roles, some knowingly, some as pawns. The people had been misled, divided, and controlled. The generation betrayed, their generation, Generation Z, had been targeted, taught to forget, made to obey. But the Lightkeepers believed they would be the ones to remember. Footsteps in the dark, a soft sound echoed in the library. Someone or something was coming. The kids scattered as red lights scanned the room. Captured, Zara was caught. The others escaped through the back, but she was taken to a re-education center known as the Correctional. Inside the system, at the Correctional, Zara saw how the Republic erased minds. Screens played lies, food dulled thinking, and questions brought punishment. But she held on to what she knew. The signal. With Luna's help, the friends hacked a drone. They sent a message into the center. You are not forgotten. Hold the light. We are coming. The breakout, using a blackout caused by Milo's EMP device, Zara escaped. She fled into the ruins with guards chasing her. Reunion, she found the others in an old subway station lit by glow sticks. Tired but determined, the friends hugged, now more united than ever. The broadcast, they hijacked a communication tower and broadcast a message across the Republic. We are the Lightkeepers. We remember. The truth lives on. The spark in cities across the land, people paused. Some wept. Some remembered. Some turned off their screens and stepped outside to look at the stars. The revolt begins. The message spread. Old resistance groups awakened. The Republic sent its machines, but now the people had hope. The Tower of Order. The kids set their sights on the Tower of Order, the heart of the architect's rule. It was time to end the illusion. The choice, inside the tower, they found its leaders. The kids were offered power, but at a cost. Join us and rule, or defy us and fall. The refusal, they chose freedom. They chose truth. They refused to live in fear. And with that, the system began to collapse. The fall of the wall, the city walls fell. Drones stopped flying. People stepped out of their homes into light for the first time in years. A new dawn, America began to rebuild, not as it was, but better. This time, with open eyes and brave hearts. This world needs brave hearts. Ask questions. Speak the truth. Stand tall. Because a world for only the brave needs you. The brave are many. The 4 friends became legends. Not because they were perfect, but because they had courage and determination. Written by Concordia G. 2025.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're going to navigate a really thought-provoking and pretty intense narrative. It's drawn from excerpts of A World for Only the Brave with prologue, and there are also some striking visuals you brought along.
Yeah.
You were curious, you said, about how societies can undergo these fundamental transformations and, what might spark resistance in those kinds of scenarios.
Exactly. Where do those shifts start?
So our deep dive today aims to unpack the core narrative presented here. It's about a dramatically changed America and maybe the first stirrings of defiance within it.
And that visual introduction you mentioned, it's immediately impactful, isn't it?
It really is.
That image, the tattered American flag, the ruins of a city they now call the Republic, it just speaks volumes. It sets such a powerful stage, decline, a massive shift from whatever came before. It's quite something how one image can try to capture such a profound change.
It certainly paints a stark picture. And the prologue, well, it tries to lay out the supposed catalyst for this downfall. According to the text, a very, very broad collection of groups just labeled the left here.
Right, and it lists quite a few.
It does. Communists, transhumanists, globalists, environmentalists, technocrats, it's wide net. And this group, the narrative claims, believed America needed to be, dismantled and rebuilt.
Why America specifically?
Because of its global influence resources, media, politics, economics, even thought, apparently. The goal, as stated in the text, was their vision of total world control.
Okay, that's a huge claim. This diverse coalition aiming for one single goal. Global control. How does the book suggest such different groups would even align on that?
That's a really crucial point, isn't it? The narrative suggests this group, also called TPTB in the text.
And powers that be, presumably.
Presumably, they initiated America's voluntary enslavement, it says, by systematically weakening its core foundations.
Voluntary enslavement, that phrase alone. It's quite a dramatic premise, a nation just willingly giving up its strengths.
It is. And it makes you wonder, according to this text, what were the main levers they supposedly used to get this voluntary submission?
Good question. Does it specify?
It points towards undermining foundational principles, but the details of how seem complex. Then the narrative throws in a bit of an ironic twist.
Oh.
A leader, described as a globalist pro-freedom leader from the right, is apparently manipulated, maybe well-meaning, the text implies, but tricked into starting a war against the left.
Ah, so pitting forces against each other.
Exactly. And the text posits that this conflict, ironically, just sped up America's decline, played right into the hands of those wanting its destruction, supposedly.
So it's a narrative suggesting manipulation on a massive scale.
Right.
Using existing political divides.
That's the idea presented. What's fascinating, or maybe disturbing, depending on how you look at it, is this idea that forces that seem totally opposed could be used, maybe without even knowing it, to achieve one single outcome.
Precisely. And following this alleged manipulation, the narrative says America then isolates itself.
Yeah.
Pulls back from world affairs because of authoritarian edicts.
Right, the self-imposed withdrawal.
Which then apparently allowed this new world to kind of solidify domestically. But then the story takes another turn.
Yeah.
It suggests that hidden ones then somehow regain control.
Hidden ones, okay.
And they shifted the blame for all America's problems onto the, quote, good guys, maybe that manipulated right-wing leader, and then implemented a new world order, but just on a national scale first.
Wow. That's a rapid sequence. Power shifts, betrayals, blame games.
It's presented as very quick, yes. So if we think about this new world order as the text describes it, what are its key features? What defines this new national setup?
Well, the described result is a totally reshaped America, a new utopia, it calls it, now allied with China and pushing its new ideology globally.
Allied with China, okay.
And the text really stresses this was a long-term plan. It involved getting control over education, government, the military, the media.
The usual suspects for control.
Right. And especially it emphasizes the minds of Generation Z. They're portrayed as becoming the new light bearers after America's fall.
That's an interesting angle. A generation being indoctrinated, but then becoming the champions of the very system that did it?
Yeah. What kind of psychological or societal mechanisms does the narrative suggest could even explain that kind of transformation?
That is a compelling question, isn't it? The narrative seems to imply a really powerful form of maybe social engineering. This control over information, over education, especially targeting younger people. It speaks to how you could potentially shape worldviews over a long time.
But does it seem plausible? Complete ideological control.
Well, it also makes you ask if that's ever truly possible. What factors might lead to cracks appearing in a system like that? The story itself might even hint at that later.
Good point. So, looking at the aftermath described, we've got this isolationist America. It's completely controlled now by the left, this incredibly broad and, like we said, seemingly contradictory coalition.
Right, communists and globalists and environmentalists all supposedly working together seamlessly.
Yeah. And a civil war has already happened. The future is left very uncertain. The narrative hints at maybe foreign intervention, the consolidation of this new, well, dystopian order, and this bigger idea that America's fall is meant to be the trigger for a global, socialist, technocratic, communist domination.
It's a very grand and very dark vision.
It also tosses in the idea of a possible, maybe even unintentional collaboration between the left and the right in causing the downfall in the first place.
That's a complex thought. So what are the main unanswered questions or uncertainties the text leaves hanging about this new world order's future?
It paints a bleak picture, definitely. And that uncertainty you mentioned about foreign influence and just the basic stability of this ruling coalition that seems to have opposing ideologies baked into it.
Yeah, that seems like a major point of tension within the story's logic itself.
Yeah.
How could such different groups maintain unified control?
Just when it seems totally bleak, a little spark of hope appears.
Okay. In a place called Sector 12, we meet the brave few. There's Milo, described as a tinkerer, Zara, a runner, Jin, a codebreaker, and Luna, a dreamer.
Just kids, basically, not powerful figures.
Exactly. Ordinary kids who just start to question the reality they've always been told. This feels like a real turning point. What do you think the narrative might be suggesting there? About where resistance starts in a state that seems all-powerful?
Well, it suggests that even in places with extreme control, just basic human curiosity, a feeling that something isn't right, that can be a powerful catalyst.
Yeah.
It often isn't some big political movement that kicks things off, is it? It's individuals waking up, realizing something is fundamentally wrong.
And these individual questions, they lead to some pretty big discoveries.
Like what?
Jin, the code breaker, he finds a forbidden map. It's hidden inside a broken patrol bot.
Okay, a map. To where?
It shows a place called the Forgotten Lands, apparently somewhere beyond the Republic's control. This gives them a tangible alternative, right?
Yeah.
Something other than their current reality. Absolutely. What do you think the symbolic meaning of the Forgotten Lands might be in this story?
Well, it probably represents a space outside the main ideology, outside the control. Maybe a place where the past still exists, or where a different future could be imagined.
It gives them a concrete goal, a sense of possibility, especially if they're starting to question everything.
Then Zara, the runner, she intercepts a radio signal, a really passionate one, with the message, "Do not forget who you are. America must rise again. You are not alone."
Wow. That's direct.
Very direct. It's external validation for their doubts, isn't it?
Yeah.
And a call to action.
Yeah, think about how powerful a message like that could be if you're living under tight information control.
Right.
It breaks through the isolation. It confirms your gut feeling, suggests there are others out there resisting. It could really shift doubt into collective hope, give them a sense of purpose.
And Luna, the dreamer, she has this necklace. It was from her grandmother who vanished. The grandmother said it belonged to someone brave.
Okay, a family heirloom.
But get this. The necklace glows faintly when it's near that forbidden map.
Ooh, interesting. A mysterious link.
Yeah, a link to the past, maybe a guide. What role do you think symbolic objects like that play? In fostering resistance, maybe holding on to cultural memory?
Oh, they can be hugely powerful anchors to the past.
Yeah.
Representing lost values, traditions. They give you a sense of continuity, maybe inspire courage by connecting you to a history of resistance or just a different vision. And the glowing part adds that touch of mystery, maybe something deeper, almost spiritual driving them.
And Milo, the tinkerer, he finds something too. A hidden message tucked away in an old book of poems.
Cool. Okay.
Talks about light keepers, people who remember the truth and are just waiting for the right moment.
Light keepers. That gives them a name, doesn't it? A sense of history behind their own feelings.
Exactly. How does that idea, people preserving truth through dark times, how does that resonate in a narrative like this?
I think the concept of light keepers is really significant.
Yeah.
It suggests that even when the powers that be try to erase history and truth, there are always individuals who, keep that flame alive.
Yeah.
It gives hope. It suggests that their own questioning isn't random. It's part of a bigger, longer tradition of resistance.
So, united by all these discoveries, the four friends meet up. Underground tunnels, they make the pact.
A pact to do what?
To find the Forgotten Lands, uncover the truth, and, well, restore their world. Big goals.
Ambitious for 4 kids in tunnels.
Right, and they find an escape route marked with the same symbol that's on Luna's necklace. They slip away into a dark tunnel. Just drones are hovering overhead.
Leaving the known world behind. Classic motif.
It is. What does going underground symbolize here, do you think, with those drones watching?
Well, going underground is often about retreating from the dominant power structure, right? Moving into a hidden, maybe marginalized space where resistance can actually start to form. And the drones hovering above, that's a constant reminder of the surveillance, the risk they're taking just by trying to find freedom.
So they emerge from the tunnels into something called the Red Zone.
The Red Zone, what's that like?
War-torn city, broken skyscrapers, rubble, but still lurking surveillance. It seems much more dangerous, less controlled than Sector 12 where they started.
So that contrast between the maybe more ordered Sector 12 and this chaotic Red Zone, what does that suggest about the state of this transformed America?
Well, it could highlight the instability, couldn't it? The real cost of the upheaval. Maybe Sector 12 is the pacified zone, the utopia they try to show.
Well, the Red Zone is the messy reality underneath.
Exactly. A reminder of the conflict and destruction that maybe built the current order. Suggests the utopia is built on, well, not very utopian foundations.
Right. Built on violence, perhaps?
And then in a ruined bookstore in this Red Zone, they find a hidden library.
A library, okay.
Yeah. Behind a false wall. It's filled with relics from the old America books, objects. It becomes their secret place for learning, for remembering.
That feels like a really major turning point, a repository of lost knowledge.
It does. What's the significance of a library, especially a hidden one, as a symbol of resistance against an oppressive regime?
Oh, huge significance. A library represents preserving knowledge, history, different perspectives. It's the opposite of regimes that want to control information and erase the past. It's a space where critical thinking can actually happen, where they can find alternative stories and share them.
And inside this library, they uncover what the text calls the real story.
The truth.
According to this narrative, yes. America's fall involved manipulation from both the left and the right, leading to division, control, basically, the people being played.
Both sides playing a role, knowingly or not.
Okay. And they also learned that their generation, Gen Z, was specifically targeted, taught to forget, taught to obey.
Wow.
The Lightkeepers believed that this generation would be the ones to eventually remember.
Finding that out about your own generation must be incredibly impactful.
Yeah. How do you think that knowledge would shift their understanding of themselves, their place in this society?
Well, discovering you were deliberately targeted. It could be really disorienting, but also maybe empowering.
How so?
It shatters the illusion of the reality they were given. It could create a strong sense of shared experience, maybe a shared purpose among them. And knowing the Lightkeepers believed in them, that could give them a real sense of responsibility and hope, too.
But just as they make this discovery, danger, approaching footsteps, scanning red lights outside the library, they're forced to scatter.
Can't stay safe for long.
No. And Zara, the runner, she ends up inside a place called the Correctional.
Sounds ominous.
It is. She witnesses firsthand the Republic's methods. Mind erasure through propaganda, suppressing any critical thought. But the text says she held on to what she knew.
That internal resilience, it seems vital.
It does. What does Zara's experience there suggest about the limits of control, even really comprehensive systems?
I think her resilience highlights the enduring power of just individual thought and memory, even when facing intense indoctrination suppression. The human mind can hold on to fragments of truth. It can resist being completely reshaped. It suggests that control is never truly absolute, that internal resistance, that spark, can survive even in the most oppressive places.
And despite these risks, they don't just hide. Luna helps them hack a drone.
Hack a drone, okay.
Yeah, to send a message out. You are not forgotten. Hold the light. We are coming.
That's bold, using the regime's own tech against them.
Right. What's the significance of that? An act of digital rebellion?
Oh, it's hugely symbolic. It's reclaiming agency in a world controlled by technology. It shows they're resourceful, willing to use the master's tools, so to speak, to spread their own message of hope and resistance.
Yeah.
It proves that control can be challenged, even in unexpected ways.
And they don't stop there. They escalate. They hijack a communication tower.
Whoa! Okay, even bigger.
And they broadcast a message across the entire Republic. We are the Lightkeepers. We remember. The truth lives on.
A public declaration. That's putting themselves right out there.
Absolutely. What kind of impact could a broadcast like that have on everyone else living in the Republic?
Potentially massive. It could shatter the regime's information monopoly, at least for a moment, sow seeds of doubt, maybe inspire others who feel the same way but are too scared to speak up.
Right. Give them a sense of connection.
Yeah, create a sense of shared identity, a shared purpose among anyone questioning the status quo.
And the immediate result described is really striking. Drones stopped flying.
Just
stopped.
That's what the text says. It suggests a significant disruption, right, to the Republic's surveillance, its control, a tangible consequence of their actions.
Wow. Okay, what could that mean? Practically, symbolically.
Well, practically, if the drones stop, maybe that creates little pockets of freedom from surveillance, allows people to maybe communicate, organize more safely, even if just for a bit.
And symbolically, it's like a crack appearing in the Republic's seemingly unbreakable armor. It shows their control isn't absolute. It can be challenged.
A real sign of vulnerability.
Yeah. And the narrative wraps up this part by emphasizing that these four friends, they became legends. Not because they were perfect, but because of their courage, their determination, their willingness to ask questions, speak truth, stand tall. It's a powerful reminder, isn't it, about the impact individual bravery can have.
It really is. What's the sort of lasting message there about heroism, about individual action?
I think the lasting message is that heroism often comes from ordinary people finding the courage to act on what they believe in, even when facing huge adversity.
Yeah.
It really underlines the idea that questioning, seeking truth, speaking out, these are essential acts of resistance against any kind of oppression, really.
So wrapping this up, you shared this glimpse into a world that's been profoundly changed by forces that, according to the narrative, seemed opposed, but ultimately led to this new, tightly controlled reality, the Republic.
But within that story of upheaval and control, we saw this really inspiring emergence, didn't we? Individuals driven just by curiosity, by a desire for truth.
And for you, listening in someone who values getting knowledge quickly, thoroughly, and enjoys those aha moments,
Yeah.
We hope this exploration, looking at the supposed causes of this fictional transformation and those initial sparks of resistance, we hope it's been thought-provoking.
It definitely raises questions, this story, about how societal forces can be manipulated, how fragile established orders might be, and maybe the enduring power of individuals when faced with overwhelming control.
Absolutely. So reflecting on the narrative we've unpacked from these excerpts, what are your thoughts on that core idea, that seemingly opposing ideologies could, maybe unintentionally, maybe even intentionally, end up contributing to the dismantling of a society?
And maybe even more broadly, what role do you think questioning and just the simple act of remembering plays in any time period, not just in fictional dystopias, but always?
This deep dive into a world for only the brave, it offers a pretty stark vision, but also those first glimmers of defiance. What parts of this narrative resonate most with you as you think about it further?